In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Good day, everyone. Nestor Licanto here with another edition of In Full Zoom, and this week we're going to focus on. Let me just go out on a limb and say that in 2020, if the focus was on COVID, and rightly so, I think in 2021 the focus is going to be on economic recovery, and we have two of the perfect people here to talk about that for the government side. We have Speaker Therese Terlaje. Congratulations, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Nestor.
And we have the Republican Minority Leader, Senator Jim Moylan. Congratulations to you as well, Jim.
Thank you, Nestor. Good afternoon, Speaker.
Hi, Jim.
Madam Speaker, let me start with you. As I said from the outset, I think that economic recovery is going to probably replace our concerns over COVID. Hopefully that is beginning to wind down. And now we're going to be faced with economic recovery. Do you agree that that's going to be one of the main, if not the main issue in 2021? And how? And I know you just seated a couple of days ago, but how will the legislature get involved in that economic recovery plan?
Thanks. Yes, absolutely. It should be the priority. Absolutely. I don't think we're absolutely out of the woods yet on the health side, and but I think they work actually hand in hand. So in order to open our economy full scale, our local businesses, we need to make sure public health is up to the full capacity on testing, tracing, and vaccination, and that. They've got to lay their plans out, they've got to implement them, and we can't have any delays, any impediments. It has to be full scale. And they've partnered with other agencies and people to do this. So I just feel like we've got to be at full speed on that type of capacity. And then we focus on the businesses. And of course, the real impacts of these business closures are on families. And so we need to, while we're trying to build these businesses up, realize that we've got families who are suffering. They're very fragile. Any additional impacts to them are really, I don't think we can recover, any more impacts to families. So we need to help them as much as we can. And, of course, part of this is going to be through boosting businesses and their ability to do what they should have been doing all along, right? Operating and just opening up to full capacity. But so again, public health has been instrumental in this because of their environmental health division, right? Setting guidelines as to how we're going to open, how they're going to operate, what types of literally how many people can avail themselves of these businesses at a time. There's different things like this. So I think all of that, they've done a good job of trying to set parameters so far, but I think, it's really, we're going to have to push them to do it all at a greater scale and try to get everybody at full speed as soon as possible. I think we've made efforts to, we can't lose this opportunity to look at diversifying wherever we can, doing things differently and better and faster, and especially on the government side. So making it more convenient. The electronic shift, I think, is a very good tool, and we should be at full speed on that. And unfortunately, we're not yet. So on the government side, we need to increase our capacity at every agency to accommodate these businesses and make it convenient. Just today, I got a phone call that they can't renew their health certificates, because of the hours public health is keeping and different things like that are caused by, all of this combined. But all of these things, every service that the government is providing to businesses has to be at full speed, on board, and no impediments. They can't reduce hours. They have to increase the facility to do that. I mean, those are some of the things, but of course, we're going to look at every aspect of the economy. I think looking at the revenue closely.
And Jim,
Sorry, Nestor.
thank you, Speaker. I didn't mean to interrupt that. Jim, let me go to you.
Oh, sure.
Jim, let me go to you. I know that the GOP caucus has come up with several bills. I think you've introduced 3 already, having to do with tax relief. Why focus on tax relief? Can you explain?
Sure, and it's in line what the speaker was just mentioning and helping the businesses get back. And our theme is kind of get Guam back to work. And the things the speaker mentioned is, of course, very important. And these things there's several of them actually. And one of the items that was talked about was these regulations and rules that we had to really look at. A lot of these things have been some red tape that needs to be really reduced so we can get businesses started up quicker. And we've had that problem before the pandemic, but what the pandemic has really showed us is that really now more than ever, as the speaker was saying, we really got to get it streamlined so we can get things faster and going quickly. And part of the economic plan that we were discussing with our Republicans is, of course, reducing fees and taxes, right? Today, more than ever, after your doors have been closed for 9 months, you're finally opening up little by little with 25% capacity now inside and maybe 50% outside, but letting your employees go because a lot of businesses have had their doors closed and still have not opened. Before 27,000 people either reduced hours or not working at all. Looking at a PUA that we have been able to extend it with the help of GDOL, extending it to March, April. But where's the economic plan going to start from? So as legislatures, we know we can make some measures to help the businesses by reducing their administrative costs. That's the taxes and the fees, right? We understand that the general fund is greatly affected with the business privilege tax. That's our main source of income. And then next is our corporate withholding tax, the employees' taxes, right? And those 2 things in the last CRER that came out were reduced as expected. How do we bring this back up? And it's not going to be by increasing the taxes. It's going to be helping these businesses by decreasing the taxes, allowing them to hire more employees, allowing them to buy the products that they need to put on their shelves, or just allowing them to pay their basic bills. My goodness, their rent is still due, their supplies, everything needed, they still had to pay to have their name on that door or the services that they provide. And to stay afloat this long without any form of income, fortunately, some, of course, from the federal government, but that's not the final amount necessary, right? So let's reduce their taxes, let's reduce this red tape, and let's get Guam back to work. And diversification, as the speaker mentioned, that as well. Fortunately, in the 35th Guam Legislature, we were able to diversify a couple of things with GITA by adding on to the matrix things like the distribution center and also the drone industry. And we did a little bit of reducing some of the red tape and fees by reducing the LLC licensing from $1,000 to $250. So there's more things that we can do in the 36th Guam Legislature. Those were some of the bills that we introduced initially, like increasing the Dave Santos from $250,000 to $500,000 threshold, and looking at a moratorium on the $1 million plus more property tax, because these buildings are rented, the space is rented by either private businesses or rental properties or even government agencies. When we heard recently that GITA, for example, needed to reduce their footprint because they saw an increase in their rent due to the increase in taxes that we had applied previously. So things like that.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
All right, I wanted to get the speaker's reaction to that. The governor has come out publicly several times and has said that she opposes a reduction of the BPT from 5% back down to 4%, simply because, well, not simply because, but one of the reasons is because the Trump tax cuts took a big toll on government tax revenues. Where do you stand and the Democratic majority stand with respect to rolling back the business privilege tax?
Well, I'll speak for myself today, and the majority, we need to discuss this further and determine what our position is today based on the numbers that we are seeing today. And I know that I was part of the legislature when that business privilege tax was increased. I opposed it. I did not vote in favor of that because at the time, it was supposed to be for tax to cover the Trump tax impacts. However, yeah, I would like to see a corresponding reduction in government, expenditures. So I still believe that we can address government expenditures and that we need to address government expenditures. And so I'm not in favor of increasing any taxes. I know the governor's very concerned about the timing. And so I want to hear her out on that about the timing of it. However, yeah, we're also looking at the timing of, businesses really, really needing a boost, as the minority leader has said. So I'm hoping that we can repeal that increase as soon as we can. I think we need to ensure, again, that we've got critical services of the government being provided, but services that are not critical, I think we should re-examine. And, if that's how we can, if that's somewhere we can cut, then that's what we should do for now. And I've always said that, some of these projects that we've got slated they're excellent government projects. They're excellent, and no one's going to do it if the government doesn't do it. They should be done. Problem is the timing again, right? It's like, should that be done today? Should that be done while we are trying to get businesses back open and while we are trying to help these families who are very much suffering? And I just think we have to keep going back to that. And, the reality is all the beautiful things we might want to do, we've got to look at families that are suffering, a healthcare system that is so fragile that if we don't fix it, we might continue to suffer like this for extended periods. We've got a new strain of COVID, making its way. And so it's a very critical that we get the right balance of critical services in government and reduction of expenditures in government and, assistance to businesses. Yes.
All right. I wanted to move on to another somewhat contentious issue, and that is raising the minimum wage. As you both know, in March, the final increment of 50 cents to raise it to, I think, $9.75 will go into effect. Jim, what is your stance on minimum wage increase? In fact, in the U.S. Mainland, there are states that have increased the minimum wage to $15 to make to address all of the economic issues that the public is facing right now.
Right, and I totally understand that. And when our bill was passed for this increase at the increments, the 50 cents, and then the next 50 cents, I believe, will be in March. That time, we were looking at a good fiscal year, right? We got the audit report, and it was telling us that we are in the black, right? And the governor explained that wanting to pay off some from debts with that. Not looking at reducing any taxes or anything like that. Since that time, again, we have over 27,000 either reduced wages or have lost their jobs. The tourist industry being the number one. And when that is going to recuperate, it depends who you listen to. It could be 2 to 3 years. But finally reaching to that point where we were when this bill for the increase in wages was established is we're no longer there. Will we be hurting the opportunity for employers to hire more people if we raise this minimum, if we proceed with the next increment of the minimum wage increase? I'm really not too sure, but I think we should relook at that situation. I think the important thing, as the speaker has pointed out, is what is the priority? we can certainly continue on with the increase. However, that doesn't mean that we're allowing the employers to hire the people that need the jobs, how many people would we then be hurting? You know, we can increase the minimum wage to $15, for example, Nestor, as you mentioned. But how many employers could actually afford to do that? Or the employer would just say, you know, cut. I can't afford to be in business. The other thing we had to consider as they reopen up for example, the hotels, when we increase the minimum wage, we're also decreasing the gap between that other employee who has been there for so many more years. And the new person comes in, especially during this time, and they're probably doing the work with less employees until they can recuperate enough to substantially keep their doors open without taking loss after loss. The timing is what we really need to look at. And the priority should be allowing businesses to open their doors. I think the Chamber of Commerce will want to weigh in on this. The Hotel and Restaurant Association will want to weigh in on this as well. And we may have to relook at this. We don't want to take away from any of the families and their necessities and making things any harder. But right now, I think the priority should be, let's get the doors open. Let's get the capacity back up to the 100% since we're doing so well in our CAR score. Let's maintain the cleanliness that we have and the mask that we must wear and the distance and we must do. And then we can relook at that with competition in businesses to attract those employees the best and to train them and to move up the ladder. I'm sure we can look at this further down the line, but I think that's something we should consider to help the businesses reopen.
Yeah, and Speaker, what's your take on that? Because anecdotally, it seems that prices have been going up, and of course, wages have not. I remember the argument when the bill was first passed. I think former Speaker B.J. Cruz was one of the authors, and there was pushback from the chamber, from GHRA, and from business. If I recall correctly, Speaker Cruz said, they all said the sky's falling, but the sky didn't fall. I'm wondering if you had any thoughts on minimum wage.
Thank you, Nestor. I believe that the concerns that we had when we passed the legislation to increase the minimum wage still exist. That is, like you talked about, the cost of living and the ability of families to meet that cost of living and to provide for their families. And we want families to be safe and healthy, and they have to have an adequate standard of living. And so those concerns still exist. Maybe they're even exasperated today. So that's one side. But I agree with the minority leader that timing is everything in this. And I am very open to looking at the impacts of an increase, as scheduled versus, if it would be an impediment to the opening of businesses. So I think we should all remain open, and we should hear a full discussion on this matter. And but I don't think that the concerns have gone away, but we just have other concerns now on the other side that were not there before.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
All right. Let me stick with you, Madam Speaker. You in the previous legislature were the oversight chair of tourism. I'm wondering if you could speak to what you see in the immediate future for the tourism industry, which is one half of our two-stooled economy. How's it looking for 21?
Well, I think we can do everything that we can do, right? So that includes this vaccination is really going to take us a long way to opening our tourism, I think. The vaccination, the testing, and the tracing. If we can get our systems and we can take care of our community, fully, then we can extend those resources to visitors, right? And be able to trace, in case they do, bring the virus back, and test if necessary, depending on the circumstances at that exact time. But of course, and react to what the other countries are doing in that regard. So, unfortunately, our opening, our tourism industry is going to be dependent on them, what they do in their own countries. However, for our part, I say we do everything that we absolutely can. And that means making our community healthy, number one, and vaccinated, number two, you know what I mean? And so we're resistant to any type of additional strains, on our community. So we make our community resistant, and we build up our whatever we need to do to make sure we're open. And the businesses are going to be operating in a different way, so we help them to get there and be ready. And so everything's ready, and we just wait for those countries to be ready to send, to allow people to come over. It shouldn't be the reverse, where they're ready and we're not. I want to be ready, and I think that's what we're racing. We're racing against every other country to be ready, and we should stay ready and just, be right there, so we can be the first ones to invite when they are willing to travel. I think, and we should be that way. Thanks.
Senator Moylan, what's your insight into how the tourism industry is going to fare, and if it's going to take a little bit more time? I know the chamber has put forth some different initiatives that to diversify the economy, and could you comment on those?
Sure. Thank you, Nestor. And I do agree with the speaker. We must be ready. And it is a race. There are so many other countries competing for the tourism to come back. What we know, what our tourists want to come to Guam for is our beautiful island scenery and the people, our hospitality, the parks. This is our opportunity to get our parks ready. We did have a Department of Interior budget that helped us repair some of our bathrooms. But we still know there's a lot more work that needs to be done with our parks. And what is the long-term plan for our parks? When we go down to the Statue of Liberty over here in Adelup, or Matapang Beach, down in Tumon, and Ipoh Beach, or down in Tumon too. The trees need to be trimmed. The parking lot need to be lined. The lighting needs to be increased. Security needs to be provided. And some of these things we more than before. I tried this in the 35th, but maybe some public-private partnerships so we can have things in place. So when the health officials allow us, the airlines and the government say, we're good, come on over, we're ready. And then they're gonna go back to their folks and say, come to Guam. These folks they're just ready to go. We had this time that we can while things are pretty much open. There's a lot of plans that I'm sure are on the books that just must be done. Take this as our opportunity to get the work done. If the general funds are low, maybe we should again look at more public-private partnerships to get it, and for a long-term effect to keep it going while the tourists come on back. And I think we'll be in a better place by then.
Yes, Nestor, if I may add.
We've got to, sure. Absolutely.
So the governor says that she hopes to vaccinate 70% of the community in 6 months. So I think that might play into the time frame. But again, I agree fully that we use this time to take care of our own issues, which are not only health, but flooding in Tumon. And so while I was oversight of the tourism, I ensured that remained their priority no matter what. Throughout this whole thing, we cannot go back to tourism with flooding, the way we've seen it. It's unsanitary, it's a health hazard, and of course it's unsightly, and it's just not a welcoming sight at all. So those are infrastructure issues, and of course all the parks and the safety at the parks. So, we try to ensure that despite, the reduction and shutdowns, that we keep our parks safe and that we do what we need to get them maintained. And this has to be a priority going forward, no matter what. So yes, those are critical.
Yeah. I've got a couple of minutes left for each of you. And speaking of priority, and this might be a little repetitive, but what do you see as the biggest challenge going into 2021 for the economy and for the individual families? And how do you plan to address that? And let me go to you first, Senator Moylan, and we'll finish with the speaker.
Thank you, Nestor. The economy are reliant on the small business on our island is so important, right? And more so than ever, we realized how we will survive, how our government will grow is with the growth of our small businesses. Our Republican measures are on the table, and we want to move them forward as quickly as possible. And my colleagues have other measures too to introduce to help the growth of our island come back and doing it the proper way. We've had these last several months, 9 months, to realize what it does take to keep our health in check, properly taking care of ourselves and taking care of others by taking care of ourselves as well. And when we do open our doors, to keep that health attention there right from the start. So our measures are going forward to help reduce the taxes and, more importantly, to not increase taxes and focus on the things we really need to do to get our island at this time as beautiful and as even better than it was before. So when our tourists do come back, and also for our community, we can really enjoy our things once again with a healthy and strong and vibrant economy due to the success of small businesses and the employees that they hire. So I think that's what we got to look forward to. And I'm really looking forward to working with our speaker and my other colleagues in the 36th Guam Legislature to make things happen. So thank you very much, Nestor, and thank you, Madam Speaker.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
All right, thank you. Speaker, what's the biggest challenge in the coming year, and how will you address that specifically?
Well, I think, thank you, Nestor, and Minority Leader Moylan, thank you very much. And I think working together, all branches, all agencies, and the private sector, we can do this. I'm very confident in that, and we just need to work together. And we've got to communicate very clearly so that there are no misunderstandings, because, we've spent so much time in the last few months trying to figure things out. What I think all the information should be out on the table, very clear, very open. We can't have any delays because of delay in information. So information's got to be available promptly. We've got to be able to use that to the best of our abilities. I think a collaboration, I'm very excited about the new senators that we have, and working with the continuing senators, that I think we're going to have a great opportunity to take advantage of their wealth of knowledge and just experience. And so I'm, especially communicating with the public, communicating with agencies. But I really think so for the government side, we need to, like I said, ensure our capacity is 100% or more. It's like we've got to make up for lost time. So we should be, falling all over ourselves to make our government agencies deliver services so much more efficiently, faster, everything, because we're making up for lost time. At least that's how I see it. And there has been an incredible impediment to the continuation of businesses because of the government not being fully, operating, or at least that's how it feels to these businesses. And that cannot be, not in this age, and not, with the tools that we've been given and the COVID money that we've received, we should be up to speed by now. We've got to make sure. So, and then we've got to not impose any more impediments on the businesses, allow them to, get back to full function. And then we've got to get our government agencies who are focusing on diversification, such as GITA. We've got lots of, several programs in the books already that I think they just need, and they have they've said that they will dedicate more time to expanding those programs that, prior legislatures have laid out and said, these are the priorities, let's implement these things. We've just had a delay in implementation of some of our diversification proposals, right? And so that we don't have time for any more delays in services, in diversification, in information. So everybody's got to act together, like we've got to make up for lost time. And I think that's our way forward. And we know the way, and we just need to do that. Collaborate.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's get that economic engine started up real quick, because we're going to need it in 21. Speaker Therese Terlaje and Minority Leader Jim Moylan, thank you so much for joining us on In Full Zoom. I'm Nestor Licanto. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you, Nestor.
Bye-bye. All right.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.